April 2026. Buried inside corporate spending records, one number quietly flipped, and it might be the most important shift in AI all year. For the first time ever, American businesses paid more money to Claude than to ChatGPT. 34% to Anthropic, 32% to OpenAI. A gap of about 2 points, small on paper, but it means something huge. Not more attention, not more downloads, more money. So how did that actually happen? Here's what most people get wrong about the phrase AI race. Most people hear it and picture one thing: who has the smartest chatbot, who's more famous? That race, ChatGPT, is still winning, and it's not close. But there's a second race running underneath that one. The race for who companies actually trust enough to hand over their money, their code, their real work. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how Anthropic won that second race. Through coding tools, enterprise deals, and contracts with institutions that almost never move first. Think of it like two restaurants on the same street. One has a line around the block every single night. Tourists, families, people just curious what the fuss is about. The other restaurant has no line at all. But quietly, it's the one catering every major event in the city. Weddings, corporate dinners, the events where the bill actually matters. One gets the crowd. The other gets the money. Now, you might already have your explanation ready. ChatGPT has hundreds of millions of daily users, way more than Claude. If this were a popularity contest, it wouldn't even be close. But actually, this was never a popularity contest. Let's get into it. Go back to 2023. OpenAI wasn't just ahead, it was the default. If a company wanted to try AI for the first time, they didn't compare options, they just signed up for ChatGPT. It was the only name anyone knew. Nothing about the situation looked like it would ever change. Meanwhile, Anthropic was quietly working on two boring, unglamorous problems: writing code and reading extremely long documents. That was the whole plan, at first. So Anthropic built a coding tool called Claude Code and put it in front of developers. At first, it looked like nothing much. One product for one type of user inside a market OpenAI wasn't prioritizing yet. A small, reasonable decision. Before Anthropic even launched Claude Code directly, some of its early revenue reportedly came from other AI coding tools built on top of Claude, tools like Cursor, used by developers everywhere. Anthropic was already winning developers before it ever sold them anything under its own name. Except it didn't stay small. In just 9 months, Claude Code went from generating $0 to a run rate of about $2.5 billion. Before that number means anything, here's what run rate actually is. Imagine you sell lemonade, and one blazing hot Saturday you make $1,000. Multiply that one great day by 365, and you'd say your run rate is $365,000 a year, even though you haven't actually made that much yet. A lot of the big numbers in this story work exactly the same way. Keep that in mind. But even with that caveat, the underlying shift is real. Claude now holds about 54% of the entire enterprise coding market. OpenAI holds 21%. Not close. More than double. One more number makes this hard to ignore. By early 2026, about 4% of all code committed to GitHub, the place where millions of developers store their work, was written by Claude Code. One tool, one in every 25 lines of code, on the planet's biggest code repository. Why does coding matter this much to the bigger picture? Because coding is the gateway. Once a company's engineers trust a tool with their actual source code, the single most sensitive thing they own, something changes. That same company suddenly feels comfortable handing the tool their finances, their legal contracts, their customer support. Coding was never the finish line. It was the door. A Menlo Ventures partner put it plainly. Anthropic had dominated coding for 18 straight months, and coding had become the gateway to enterprise workflows across every department and industry. And yet, through all of this, nothing about the surface picture changed. ChatGPT still had the most users, the most headlines, the most cultural weight. New consumer features kept launching, new records kept getting set, and the entire industry kept treating OpenAI's lead as a settled fact. Ask almost anyone in early 2025 who was winning the AI race, and there was only one answer. While all of that was happening, OpenAI was spreading itself across a video app, a web browser, even hardware. Anthropic was doing almost the opposite, avoiding image and video generation entirely and staying narrowly focused on coding and enterprise work. Two very different bets, running at the same time. Then came October 2025. Deloitte, one of the largest consulting firms in the world, rolled out Claude to more than 470,000 employees across 150 countries. Not a small pilot. The largest single enterprise AI deployment ever recorded. And it went to Anthropic, not OpenAI. A few months later, Novo Nordisk, the company behind Ozempic, cut their clinical report writing time from 10 to 12 weeks, down to about 10 minutes, using a tool built on Claude. In an industry where getting a medicine to market even one day sooner can be worth about $15 million in revenue, that's not a convenience. That's real money. Developers noticed the shift too. In a survey of 15,000 developers published in early 2026, Claude Code was rated the most loved coding tool by 46% of respondents. GitHub Copilot came in at 9%. But the moment that actually tells you something is Intercom. They didn't start with Claude. They started on OpenAI's models, like almost everyone did back then. Then they switched. Their resolution rate, meaning how often the AI solves a customer's problem without a human stepping in, jumped from 23% to 51%. Their co-founder didn't credit a flashy demo. He said they looked at millions of real answers, and Claude just won more of them. And once that pattern started, it didn't stay in tech. Claude is now running inside JPMorgan Chase, inside Goldman Sachs, inside AIG, where the company reported Claude scored about 88% as accurate as a human expert on insurance claims, right out of the box. At a briefing in May 2026, JPMorgan's own CEO, Jamie Dimon, talked about building a financial dashboard using Claude Code. It took him about 20 minutes. In government, the General Services Administration made Claude available across all 3 branches of the United States government for $1 per agency for a full year. That covered civilian agencies. The military side of government would turn out to be a very different story. And we'll get to that. Banks, insurers, civilian government. The 3 industries everyone assumed would move the slowest, regulated, cautious, built to resist exactly this kind of change. And Claude got into all 3 anyway. Salesforce made Claude its preferred model for regulated industries running through its systems. Snowflake signed a deal worth around $200 million to bring Claude to more than 12,000 of its own customers. One by one, the companies other companies build their own systems on top of, we're choosing Anthropic too. Quick pause before we get into the part that actually proves all of this, because it's honestly the most convincing piece of the whole story. If this breakdown is helping you actually understand what's happening in AI, a subscribe genuinely helps this channel keep making them. All right, let's finish this. So why did any of this actually work? Part of the answer came from OpenAI itself. One of their own top executives, Fidji Simo, said something telling. In her words, the company is very much acting as if it's a code red. And the numbers back it up from more than one direction. Menlo Ventures, a firm that tracks enterprise AI spending, found Anthropic's overall share of enterprise AI spend, not just in coding this time, but across everything companies buy AI for, had already grown to 40% by the end of 2025, while OpenAI fell to 27%. Worth flagging, Menlo is also an investor in Anthropic, so treat that specific number with a little more caution. But it lines up with Ramp's data, which has no such conflict, and Ramp found that by February 2026, Anthropic was winning about 70% of head-to-head matchups against OpenAI, specifically among businesses buying an AI tool for the very first time. That's a different kind of win than Intercom's story. Intercom already had OpenAI, then walked away. This is about companies that never used OpenAI's tool at all, picking Anthropic before OpenAI ever got in the room to compete for them. Which brings us back to April 2026. Businesses paying more for Claude than ChatGPT for the first time ever. Now you know exactly how that happened. And the top-line number tells the same story at a bigger scale. About $1 billion at the end of 2024. A reported $47 billion by May 2026. Remember the lemonade stand, though. That's a snapshot stretched into something bigger than it is, not confirmed full-year revenue. Here's where this stops being just a business story, though. You might be thinking, none of this touches my life. I don't run a business. Fair. But you've probably already felt it. Remember Intercom, the support chat that solved your problem instead of transferring you to a human. Remember AIG, scoring insurance claims almost as accurately as a person would. That already happened, and it was Claude doing it. Picture where this goes next. The AI that flags a weird charge on your card. The AI helping a radiologist double-check a scan. The AI deciding how fast your claim gets processed. Not today, not necessarily Claude. But that's the direction all of this is heading, none of which makes this a clean, one-sided win. ChatGPT still dominates everyday consumer use by a wide margin. And remember that civilian versus military split. That's exactly where things got messy. The Department of Defense put Anthropic on a list usually reserved for foreign companies the government doesn't fully trust. Anthropic sued. A judge blocked it in March 2026, still unresolved. Maybe that's fitting though. The company that spent years talking about caution is the one that moved fastest into the industries built on caution. Maybe moving carefully was never the opposite of moving fast. Maybe it was the whole strategy. If you found this useful, hit like, subscribe for more of these deep dives, and let me know in the comments. Do you think OpenAI can close this gap? Or has Anthropic already won the part of this race that actually matters? That's the breakdown. See you in the next one.